Okay, and hello again. Welcome into Rolling with my special friends. Today we have a guy that I've been wanting onto this podcast for a long time. A very unique individual out there. He's a TV show host. He's a columnist writing for his local newspaper, as well as does a lot of public speaking. And I just had to get him on here for him to be able to tell you his story and kind of share a little bit of inspiration that he puts into the world to every day. Andy, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. Thank you so much for the invitation.
You are quite welcome. Now, I love to just jump off right into these things and kind of get people telling about their stories and stuff like that. And I want to jump right in with you now. I want to jump into this TV host thing. How cool is it to get in front of a show and just talk about what you love? I mean, I know yours is a sports show and you guys talk football and basketball and baseball, all that, and you've lived athletics all your life. How cool is it to have a job like that?
It's pretty cool, to be quite honest with you. It's something that I don't quite think about a whole lot when you get behind the camera. I just try to look at it as the fact of I'm having a conversation with you or somebody else, an individual out there. And we do broadcast every day, 12 to 1. It's called the Auburn Blitz. We focus on Auburn athletics, and that's something I've been an Auburn fan my whole life. I went to school at Auburn University. So, I've been a football fan. I've been a sports fan my whole life. But, the opportunity kind of came about several years ago. It started on radio and, doing a radio show, that's a lot of fun. But TV is a little bit different for sure. It has its challenges, and clearly, I got a face for radio, but when we started and moved over to TV, it was, like I said, it was an interesting challenge, but it's a lot of fun, and I really, really enjoy doing it.
Well, now, for everybody out there watching, too, like what he just spoke about, talking about Auburn athletics, Andy has probably forgotten more about Auburn athletics than most people will ever know. So to kind of put you into the spectrum of how much he loves the sport, to kind of touch on something real quick, since you're into that world, what do you think is going on with this NIL world?
It's certainly changing athletics in general, collegiate athletics. I think all it did was remove the veil that education was important. I mean, that the NCAA tried to push that and tried to hold on to that for the last 30 years. To say that, it's really about an education, that scholarship that guys get, that's worth so much more. The education that they get over those 4 years is invaluable. But now, and look, whether you believe or not that college athletes should be able to profit off their image likeness, this is America. We're in a capitalistic society. That's that's fine, and on the principle of it, that's probably I don't think there's any question that's America. That's the way that it ought to be. There probably should be no limits on that. But with every decision like that, when you invite in agents to college football athletics, which is what we've done, it's going to change. When you add in millions of dollars opportunities for these athletes, it's good for them. And I'm glad that they're able to profit from it, but there are always unintended consequences. And how's that going to affect the team chemistry when you got a quarterback that's raking in, and he's now all of a sudden he's a millionaire, and the guys protecting him, the offensive linemen, don't have any deals. So it's a brave new world. It's a different existence. They're still trying to figure out. You see the NCAA coming out here just in the last few days, trying to put some guardrails on it, trying to separate recruiting from NIL, and that's kind of where this was going to end up inevitably anyway. But you're trying to separate the fact of trying to make it where it's not just a bidding war. Whoever's got the most money gets the most recruits. I don't know if that's even possible now that the genie's out of the bottle, but we'll see what happens. And I think everybody's just kind of trying to catch up and learn as we move forward.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of change going on, and it's going to change college athletics as we know it, just because of that one aspect of you being able to put a price on your head. You know, do I want a quarterback for $50,000, or do I want a running back for $10,000, or do I got to go pay a kicker $100,000? You know, you just don't know the answers to those. What are they worth now? And then if you go pay for that certain player, does that player perform? You know, you got to realize that part as well. You stuck $1 million out there for a quarterback, and he may be a fluke.
Well, then you start to wonder. I mean, you get down the road and you think, okay, so X, company is paying my quarterback, $1 million a year in NIL deals. Well, he is not performing up to the level that I think he ought to. But can I, how much influence are they going to have to say, yeah, no, coach, you can't bench him. We need his availability. We need him to be out there to be the star quarterback. And so, we get into these scenarios where you just think, my goodness, this is not a road that we really want to be on, but this is kind of reality.
Oh yeah. Now, when you're out writing your columns for the paper and stuff, what most areas do you cover there?
Well, the idea was I started doing that in 2011, so it's been a while. But the idea was here in Tallapoosa County, publishers, pretty much they own 3 papers, and my column will appear in the one in Alex City, the Wetumpka Herald, and the Tallahassee Times, depending on, sometimes here or there. It's not weekly in those papers, but it will appear in those from time to time. But the focus was we wanted to have an Auburn voice and an Alabama voice. So they came to me and said, would you like to be the Auburn voice? So I try to concentrate on that. I try to, it can be challenging sometimes, especially this time of year, to come up with something fairly interesting to write about, but there's always something going on. I will throw a Braves column out there every now and then. I'm a Braves fan as well, but I try to focus on Auburn, and I try to maybe write some stories occasionally about different sports that you don't hear about, every single day. I'll write about, gymnastics occasionally here or there, just trying to give them some publicity as well. But it focuses in and around Auburn.
All right. So now, if somebody was going to want to read that, how do they reach out to what you're talking about, the Tallapoosa publishers? How do they find that?
Well, you can go online. Tallapoosa Publishers, Alexander City Outlook. They have a website. They publish it each and every week. If you're in this area, certainly you could pick up a paper. If anybody remembers what a paper is, they do have this periodical where they print stories on actual paper, and people pay money to get it. But those are kind of going the way of the dodo, but they are still some out there. So if anywhere you want to go, obviously online as well, Facebook, you can always look me up on Facebook, and I usually put some stuff out there through my Facebook.
Okay. Well, now speaking of that, that's what I was about to ask about. I know you also do public speaking, as far as going to some churches and other places, being able to put your story out there, which we're fixing to tell people here in just a minute, a lot of your story. How would people reach to be able to find you if they want to get you to come speak?
Well, you can go through my Facebook page and just look me up, Andy Graham. I'm out there. So if you can contact me through that anytime. And I do get invitations here and there to come and speak at different places. I don't do a lot. It's not something I do every week, but it's rare that I will turn down an opportunity to go and speak and have an opportunity to share, a message or anything that anybody would like. Well, if there's something that they'd like me, a topic to come and talk about. But honestly, the easiest way get a hold of me is probably through Facebook.
Through Facebook, Andy Graham. Okay, so now that we've kind of put that out there, tell us a little bit about the story. You know, people are going to want to come, you know, hear you speak and hear you tell things. Tell us how your injury occurred.
Yeah, okay. So I was in a car accident in 1998. I was a student at Auburn University. You know, kind of go back just to kind of set it up a little bit. You know, I was pretty typical kid, but you know, my father passed away pretty much at an early age. In 1989, I was 13 years old, and it didn't handle it really well. And as I began to grow, a little bit older and got into high school, not uncommon in this day and age, but alcohol kind of became a bit of an escape, release. And so, that just kind of, it wasn't anything out of control, but it was something that, started at a fairly, certainly too young. And that just kind of morphed into way too much by the time I got to college. And it became pretty much a weekend ritual. And so on actually the first day of spring break in 1998, I had a friend of mine just called me and asked me if I wanted to go out that night. And I said, sure. I mean, it was pretty much a standard evening, but it was the first day of spring break on a Monday night. And we went out and had a few beers, and a few more led to a few more, and a few more led to a few more. And so when we decided to leave, he was driving, and we were going back to my house. It was, a little bit later in the evening, but he just kind of maybe passed by my neighborhood, and I said, hey, you missed my house, and he said, well, let's just ride for a minute. And so, I didn't really say anything at the time, and of course, being drunk at the time, you don't really think about stuff like that. So we went on up the road a little bit, but I'm starting to come to my senses a little bit. And I say, look, this is just really not a good idea. Why don't we just turn around and you can take me home? So we started on the way back, and that's really the last thing I remember. Apparently, we ran off the road and hit a telephone pole, and I was thrown into the windshield, and I got a nice little scar on top of my head. It crushed the fifth cervical vertebrae in my neck, and I ended up outside the truck. So I'm not sure how that happened. I really don't have any memory of it, but I do have a very vivid memory of waking up and seeing kind of flashing lights and coming to the realization that I couldn't move. And I heard two people talking, and one of them said, I could hear. One of them said to the other, there are two of them. One of them's in the truck. There's another one over there. I think he's dead. Now it started to come to my attention. I started to be able to realize he was talking about me. So I began to call out to him. Apparently it was MTAC, and it was the two paramedics, and they came over and attended to me. And it turns out, again, fifth cervical vertebrae in my neck, kind of a C4, C5 injury that pretty much left me paralyzed from the shoulders down. I have, pretty decent movement in my left arm, but I don't have any movement in my right arm, and pretty much left me a quadriplegic. So that's how I ended up in the position that I am.
Well, no, obvious for, like you said, there's some choices that got us into that situation, but it's also now that you're on the other side of that and able to tell this, what I deem, because I've been knowing you for years and years, inspirational story for somebody to pick up and keep going and be that TV host and columnist and all these other things that you're doing. Kind of walk us through, for people that are out there listening, what in your mind, the life change that went on? You know, obviously you said you started calling for help laying there on the ground. When you got to a hospital, obviously they taught you how to redo things, and obviously you have some assistants that you do things with on a day-to-day basis. But for people just wanting that perspective, how much changed? Like, I mean, tell us what life is like now on the other side.
Yeah, it was obvious. I was a fairly, athletic kid. I always, I played sports my whole life. Thoroughly loved to play. I don't think there was hardly a day that ever went by, rain, sleet, snow, or hail, that I didn't go out and shoot basketball. It was just, I just loved to do it. It's kind of where I would go and think and process information. So, all that basically being taken away. And overnight, it was a overwhelming shock. I remember laying in a hospital bed. I spent, probably a month in the hospital in Birmingham, there, and at Spain rehab. But, you have the prerequisite, guys that, and I'm glad that they do it, but, you have guys come in and they volunteer, and they'll come and talk to you, and they try to tell you, your life's not over, that there's so much more that you can do. But I'm not sure any of us, it's probably different for everybody. I'm not sure how you felt about it, but I wasn't really ready to hear that kind of thing. It just kind of went in one ear and out the other. But that first year, it was really difficult. Now, I was blessed with an incredible family and support and friends, and a church family that really lifted me up and supported me and encouraged me. And so I had such a great support structure that they helped. And they took their time with me. They were patient with me, and they let me come to or make it on down the road at my own pace. And I don't know if that's, I think that's different for everybody, but it was extremely challenging. But a couple of years down the road, I just kind of looked up and looked around and said, you know what, there's not much, there's nothing that I can do about it. You can't go back and change anything. You can't go back and change a mistake that you've made. Those are the kind of things that are permanent. And that's the kind of message that I would go and talk to youth groups and things, and that I would tell them that choices have consequences. And that's why you have to make good choices with the opportunities that you're given. And because you can't go back. And I just thought, you look up and it's 20 years have gone by, and you think, I don't know where it went. I'm not sure how that I've been able to get from there to here, but I guess it's cliche, but it's one day at a time.
Well, and that's kind of what I realized too, is that grace period that's out there for most people, I call it, in that 6 months to 2 years is kind of like you said, every single person is different in the way they process the information. And I've met guys and girls that process this in 6 months, and some of them it's 2 years down the road, but they really get to what you said. They get to that point of where they understand things have changed, and they pick themselves up, and I've seen it go both ways. I've seen people really just quit and be like, life's over and that's it. And then I've seen guys like you that are just pick it up and go, you know what, I got a chance to change somebody's life, and you do it. You get out there and live your life. And a lot of times inspiration comes in ways to me by watching you that maybe you didn't set out to be a TV host to be an inspiration, but you are, because there's so many people out there looking. And just like you and I had talked earlier off the air, you got people that everyday life that things change for them, and they reach out to you because they know you've already been down that road. And it's just really cool to be able to see you do the things you do and come from where you've come from.
Well, I appreciate that. Those are kind words. I would feel the same way about you. I know both of us would love to be in a different circumstance, but you gotta, ultimately you end up having to play the hand that you're dealt. And sometimes, it might be one thing that, has always in a strange way has somewhat comforted me. Mine was, was not a freak accident. It was not bad luck. It was my own fault. And I think, if you don't, I can take responsibility for that. I can say that I put myself in an incredibly, dangerous and foolish position. And now I've got to deal with the consequences. So in a way that's, I don't ever have to wonder, why did this happen? I've never really asked that. Why did this happen to me? I know why it happened to me. Now that is just that, and that gives me some confidence. That gives me some, I guess, some solace to think that, I put myself in this situation, but I've got to deal with it now, and I've got to move on and do the best I can.
Well, and that's the same here. I really, like I said, have spent a lot of time talking to people over the years and hearing a lot of these great stories. And there are things that we're all put in our path. There's people that's put in our path every day. Our situation, I do believe, necessarily your choice did help lead to where you are, but there's also someone that's a bigger driver here to this universe and needed you in that position to be able to inspire people. Because maybe if you think about it in one way, the old Andy before the injury, you may have inspired 10 people. And now in your current situation, you're inspiring 10,000 people, if that makes sense.
Well, I hope that's the case. And definitely, there's no question that I wouldn't be in the position that I am without, the faith that I have in Jesus Christ. And that's a huge motivator for me. Like I said, I had a supportive church family that lifted me up on a daily basis and weekly basis. And I certainly wouldn't be here today without them, without their support, without the part of my family and that relationship that I have. That I believe that there's a new body coming at some point down the line, and that's something that I look forward to every day.
Well, and that's me the same. I really think that we're just visitors in this world and enjoying, the time here, but also inspiring while we're here. And that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, is to hear great people's stories and to get their story out there that maybe most people have not had a chance to hear before. Now, one of our things in our podcast we really love to touch on, and I would love to hear one from you. Tell us some type of funny story about Andy that most people don't know.
Oh, a funny story about me. Well, let's see. What are we looking for here?
Oh, just anything. I have guys and girls that tell me about, falling out of their chair. I've got people that have said funny things, done funny things, rolled over somebody's foot, just anything that most people don't know about Andy.
I don't think there's any particular story out there. I mean, I think we've all had moments. We went to, on vacation one time to Gatlinburg. This was not too long after I was injured. I want to say this was like 2000, and it was one of those moments where, the whole family went with us, and we were up there, and, they had a jacuzzi tub, and for some reason we had the idea to say, you know what, we got the whole family here. Maybe we just we'll get you, in the tub and take you a really nice, bath. And, that because that's not something that I do a lot, so we kind of tilted. I tilted back. This is back when I had like a manual chair. It wasn't really a power chair. So, but we took the feet rest off, and I leaned back, and I was there for about, I didn't really realize, but the feet rest, the leg rests are on there for a reason, to kind of counterbalance. And so when they turned loose, I just tipped back over and fell flat in the floor. And I'm well, you want it funny, I'm pretty much naked there in the floor, and so they were just concerned that I was alive and still not broken. But that's one of those moments where you just kind of, there's nothing much you could do but just kind of laugh about it and say, okay, this is life as I know it. So, but I did end up getting a bath. So.
And that's exactly what we're looking for. I mean, I've talked to people before. I talked to a guy recently that's telling me something very similar to where he went in the shower and got one of his first showers. And you know how those shower seats are when they get wet and soaked up. He said he just slid right off out onto the floor of the shower. Couldn't even stay up there.
Yeah, I think it happens to the best of us. But there are unique challenges that you never thought that there would be an issue, but it kind of is what it is.
Well, and that's kind of where we are. We want to be able to tell the story as it is. There's unique challenges, as you've already told us earlier in the podcast, of every single person's a little bit different and got things going on that help, mold and shape their life each and every day as they move along into what they do. Now, tell everybody out there listening too, what are your future plans? What do you see Andy doing in the next 5 years?
Well, I hope to be doing the same thing that I'm doing now. Hopefully the show continues to grow. And, I don't think Auburn's going anywhere. Obviously, college athletics is changing. We were talking about that before, kind of before the show. And who knows where college is going to be, the transfer portal, and with NIL, with everything the way it's changing. But obviously sports will continue to be around. Auburn will continue to be around. I'm going to be talking about it either way, so I might as well have an opportunity to get paid to do it. So that's always that's right now. That's my future plans, to continue on with the show, to continue to write my column, continue to try to take advantage of opportunities when they come my way, and hopefully there will be more and more.
Well, now that's I got one hard hitting question for you here that's really going to hit you, and I'm sure a lot of your friends out there and mine as well listening would love to know the answer that Andy's going to give to this. So if NIL comes calling and Andy hits the transfer portal to go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, is there a figure enough to get him to cross over the lines and become a red and white?
We've always got our price, but it would be a high dollar amount. But yeah, there's certainly a dollar figure out there that I would turn in a second. But
okay,
it would have to be a pretty high dollar, because most everybody knows you pick your side here in the state of Alabama, and my allegiance is for the Auburn Tigers.
Well, that's, everybody knows how strong it is, but I just want to see if that allegiance could be bought. So we may have to talk to the Saban Mercedes dealership and see if we can't get an NIL deal for the TV host.
I think, hey, I'm always open. I'll take calls. I mean, my phone line is open.
You're not going to turn anybody away then, that's what you're saying.
That's right. I'll listen.
Okay. Well, now, our signature question that we'd love to use on this podcast for everybody to be able to hear, if the day were called tomorrow and Andy's life and story were over, that God's been writing for us all to see here, what would you hope people read in a book that was wrote about your life?
I hope that they would, I hope that they would read it and say, okay, this was a guy that he was a human being. He was fallible. He made a lot of mistakes, but he learned from those mistakes, and he used his life to be a better example to everybody else. He was a kind-hearted person. I hope that they would first and foremost say, that there would be no question about whether I said anything about it or not. They would look at it. They would look at me. They would look at my life and say, there's no question that that guy is a Christian first and foremost. He overcame obstacles in his life. He used the opportunities that he had in a positive way to have a positive effect on everybody that he came in contact with. I certainly hope that people when they see my life, that they would, I guess, say that he was not the most remarkable guy in the world, but he did pretty good with what he had.
Well, now I can been knowing you for a lot of years, and I can definitely say that the remarkable part is there for a lot of the things that you've overcome and got yourself through, and now what you seem to be going with and just thriving is this TV host that, you get sick for a few days and it's like the show falls apart. Everybody's wanting to know where Andy went. So you've made a significant difference in a show when everybody's asking, where the main man's at. So now to kind of wrap this thing up and put a bow on it, if there are people out there, maybe just gone through some of the similar things that you've gone through in your life, maybe there's some people out there listening that's got a family member that's dealing with some of the stuff you're dealing with, give us, a minute or two of just an inspirational message for that person that's maybe dealing with tough times in their life. What can you tell them to kind of help them, know things are going to be better?
Well, I can certainly say that, times can be difficult. There are, unique challenges. There are obstacles that are put in our way. But, overcoming the challenges in your life, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. It's not something that's easy. It's something that you have to just kind of slow down, take a deep breath, and look at it as, a daily challenge. I try not to look at the big picture, as much. Certainly there is a big picture out there, but if you can kind of narrow it down and just put one foot figuratively in front of the other and move forward each and every day, that it sounds, again, it kind of sounds cliche, but it is something that helps. It's something that gives you. You got to be patient. Patience was never something that I was really good at, but this certainly, being in this position, it forces you to have a lot of patience. It forces you to set back and kind of reevaluate and kind of, if it doesn't work one way, then try a different way. If you first don't succeed, you just, well, okay, I'll try it a different way. A lot of us, I'm sure, you've had different opportunities, or you've had different things come up in your life where you just kind of had to figure out a way to get it done. When I first came home from the hospital, it was feeding myself. Just, you got to kind of work with some things and try to maybe trial and error, but ultimately, no matter how long it takes, you figure out, okay, well, this works, and it doesn't matter if it works for somebody else. If it works for you, then you go with it. So I think that I would recommend certainly to everybody out there that, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, then that is the first and foremost. That is something that you need to really take a long and hard look at. And I would not, I couldn't go on. I couldn't do any of the things that I do. I wouldn't be the person that I am today without that relationship. And that's, I think that's the most important thing.
Well, that's one of the parts I admire about you the most. You're willing to stand up for your faith. And as one of my favorite podcasts, the Unashamed podcast that Phil Robertson does, that's the thing that I really admire in people, to be unashamed about their faith and just put it out there, because that is, in the end, that's the only thing that matters in this world. So I want to thank you for taking your time and coming on the show today. And hopefully in the next few years, we can maybe circle the wagons and come back and be able to catch up on Andy and see how many TV shows that you're doing. And maybe if you've crossed over that fence and gone to the red and white side, maybe there was an NIL deal that came about. So we just want to, again, thank you for coming on, and hopefully you'll come back and talk to us again.
Well, Jim, I really appreciate the opportunity. You are definitely an inspiration as well. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the good work that you do. And it's a pleasure to chat with you. And I cherish the friendship that we've had over the years.
Oh, man. Well, thank you very much. Everybody out there listening, go out there and like and subscribe the page, and be on the lookout for the next upcoming podcast.